Because that word live is sometimes in certain translations translated as live or walk. And here's why. I don't know if you know this, but people walked everywhere in Ephesus. They didn't have cars. They didn't have bikes. They didn't have all of these modern things that we have, motorcycles, etc. So he says, walk. As you walk, as you live, as you go from place to place and do your business. He says, be very careful. And then he says this, not as unwise, but as wise. In other words, unwise. Not as somebody who's careless, not as someone who has no clue, not someone that just throws up their hands and says, well, I don't really care. Whatever happens, happens. Right? He says, no, not like that, but as wise. That is understanding what is the right thing to do in this situation. In other words, understanding how A plus B can equal C. Understanding how you're to act and live in this particular situation. And then he goes on in verse 16 and he says this. I want you to be careful how you live wisely. And he says in 16, making the most of every opportunity. Now that little phrase right there, making the most of every opportunity, is really translated the best as redeem the time. Redeem your time. In our translation in today's culture, it would basically be something like this. Hey, live your life intentionally. Spend your time in a very intentional kind of way. And Paul would say, hey, I want you to understand that I want you to take your time and I want you to live a life that's very careful. I want you to live a life that's very wise. I want you to live a life that is intentionally spending your time in specific ways. And he says, here's why. The end of verse 16, he says, because the days are evil. In other words, here's why I want you to do what I'm telling you to do, people in Ephesus. Here's why I'm telling you to do the things that God wants you to do. Here's why I want you to enact God's plan into your life and live your life with careful watchfulness, with wisdom, and with all these things. He says, because the days are evil. Now, I don't have to convince many of you the days are evil. I mean, the reality is some of you are so far in debt that you can't give, you can't spend the way you want to, you can't be generous, right? You are just so hemmed in by your finances because of all the debt you're in. And now you're in a situation where this economy on top of it, and we've been through this deep recession, and you know that we are living in dangerous days. And there are some of you who know, because of the choices you have to make morally, right? You know what could affect your family. You know in your parenting. You know in your workplace how you have to make hard decisions there. Man, yes, we are living in dangerous days. I don't really have to point that out to you very much for you to get it.